This, this is writing. I hope the Flash writers are taking notes. Oh wait, they're not working anymore. What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Anderson here, and this is Superman and Lois Season 3, Episode 7, Forever and Always. It's a good episode. It's a damn good episode. Now, granted, there are still some things that I'm not as invested in, mainly the teenage drama. But to be perfectly honest, a lot of this was still rooted in something that is a bit more relatable and a bit more interesting to me. You think about what's going on with Nat and Mateo and all of this. I like the fact that we got to see John's side of things, where he's trying to be a father for her, and that initial reaction, since this is her first boyfriend, that he's struggling to come to grips with the fact she's growing up. Like, that's something that is a little bit more mature, and while I've seen this story done before of the parent who doesn't want to accept that his kid's growing up, so he's going to be a hard-ass father to the boyfriend that's trying to come take his daughter away. This is definitely a cliche, but I think it's done well. On top of that, the stuff with Sarah, I think it's a lot better in this episode. She is being a little standoffish and a little brat to Chrissy, but it kind of makes sense. I mean, it's not been that long since the divorce happened, and Kyle's already seeing her, especially because there is an age difference. I didn't realize that, to be perfectly honest. Like, outside of the kids, I don't really know everybody's ages. I'm assuming late 30s, early 40s. But I'm guessing that Chrissy is maybe early 30s, possibly. But regardless of the age difference, it's just hard for Sarah to see her dad moving on so quickly. And so her reaction is a little bit more understandable than how she reacted in some previous episodes. But I like the fact that she realizes it's not Chrissy's fault. And it's also not just he and Chrissy are hooking up and that's it. They actually do like each other and they're dating. So I'm glad that she realizes it. I'm glad they have a nice little moment to connect. And even at the end with her mom, there's a concern for me that Lana is going to be, I guess, immature in all of this and be like, oh, I can't believe he's already seeing somebody. But no, she realizes that she's not being honest with herself about how she feels. And so there's a nice moment with her and Sarah at the end of this episode where they get to shoot off fireworks and have fun together. So I really do think they did a good job with those stories, even if the basis of them I'm not really fully connecting with. But moving on to the other story that I think had the potential to be really annoying, but I think they handled very well, is Jonathan and Jordan and what they're dealing with. Jonathan's reaction, it is over the top. It is a little bratty, to be perfectly honest, but think about what he's going through. His mom's dying, his dad's an alien who has all this super powerful technology that might be able to cure her. So of course in his mind, he's going to be extremely frustrated. Why are we not doing more? Why are we not doing some experiments with this alien technology? And of course, the reason is there for the audience to see because of everything going on with Bruno Mannheim. But for Jonathan, he doesn't understand that. And how could he? Because obviously he sees his dad and his brother going off and saving the world every day. So in his mind, well, why aren't you trying to save our mom then? So I think they handled that very, very well. And his realization at the end as far as why they can't do more, it's very mature, and it's something that I've said about the show a lot. I'm going to continue to say it. The way they handle some of these stories is very mature, and that of course takes us to the main story, which is Lois finding out about Pia, finding out she and Mannheim are married, finding out he's doing all of this for her. And for me, this really drives home what a good villain Mannheim is. I don't know where it's going to go from here. I mean, obviously he's still a villain. A lot of what he's doing, it's still despicable. It's still dastardly, even if he's doing it for a good reason. And we see even before she was sick, he was a criminal. He was trying to make deals with Lex Luthor. Now, all of it was for the benefit of the city in his eyes, but he's still trying to control it. What I do find interesting is I thought Pia's powers came from Clark's DNA, because I thought I was understanding that his blood was what was giving some of them these powers, but I guess maybe not. I guess maybe some of them had powers, but Clark's blood gives them an extra boost or something. Yeah, so finding out apparently she was superpowered before all of the experiments, it was kind of surprising for me, but seeing how they met and seeing how he convinced her to join him, it was a nice story, and it showed their connection on a deeper level that I think helps the audience connect to him a bit more. But that moment when Lois and Clark figure out why he's doing this, I think is so well done because it's a moment of reflection for both of them. They know what he's doing is wrong. They know these experiments are immoral and they're hurting people, but they're able to relate to it now. And I think because of that, they don't look at him as this evil mastermind anymore. And I almost kind of wonder if it's going to be harder for them to put a stop to him going forward because of that ability to relate to what he's going through. So this whole story is very, very well set up, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go from here. Because obviously we know Mannheim has access to Bizarro Superman, so I'm assuming that's what the story is going to focus on next. And of course, we find out at the end of this episode, Mateo is actually Mannheim's kid, so I was partially correct. Because I did say he was going to be related to Mannheim somehow. I assumed he was sent in as a spy. Either Mannheim sent him in, or Mannheim had one of his thugs had their kid go in, or something along those lines. But finding out it's his kid. And the way that he's talking to him at the end of the episode, it doesn't sound like he knows what's going on. So I'm not sure if Mannheim even knows what's going on. Maybe this is just a chance interaction where Mateo happened to fall for Nat without Mannheim knowing who Natalie is. Because it definitely doesn't seem like Mateo is involved in any of this stuff at all. At least, again, how he was describing it at the end of the episode, it sounds like he's just a kid who's fallen in love with Natalie. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens whenever Mannheim realizes who Natalie is, or I guess once John figures out who Mateo is. There's a lot of potential for where that story is going to go. So I'm nervously excited because it feels like there's going to be a lot of tension in that scene. But all in all, very good episode. It's been a little slow so far. I wouldn't say it's been bad outside of the one episode where it was a little frustrating how immature some of the stories were. But this really is the first episode this season that's brought me back to that feeling from the first two seasons where I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm excited to see more. I'm emotionally invested. I'm getting a little choked up whenever Pia and Mannheim are talking to Lois about what she's going through. And I think that's what good writing and good acting, good action, music direction, all of that does for you. It really gets you invested and brings out all the emotions that they should be bringing out. So with all that being said, on to the next episode. I'll see you there. And now episode 8, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? A title that promises fun and whimsy and maybe some fun hijinks. Oh, look who's coming to dinner. No. The exact opposite, actually. Say this is by far the most intense episode of the season. I did say that once we found out Mateo was Mannheim's son, that moment of Mannheim and John figuring out who Mateo and Nat's father was, that was going to be kind of a tense scene. I was not aware of how tense it would be. I do find it kind of funny. Just because John went to go get Natalie, that was all it took for Mannheim to just be like, hey, I told you not to come back here. Doesn't matter why you came here. Doesn't matter. You didn't come here to stop my operation. You just came to get your daughter. I'm going to kill you now. There was something a little funny about that. The resulting scene was, whew. You got John barely surviving an attack. You got Superman showing up, and he looks like he's struggling under Pia's attack. And then she falls over. She's near dead. So much about that. Just, I was on the edge of my seat. On top of that intensity, you've also got some other stuff going on that is well done. Story between Jonathan and Jordan, maybe a little cliche, but I still think it's well handled in that their initial reactions understandable. They're both frustrated. Jordan's just trying to help people. Jonathan's also trying to help people, but he gets in trouble because of what Jordan's doing. So there's enough there that I understand the initial reaction from both, but then Jordan sort of wises up, realizes where Jonathan's coming from. So he goes to apologize, only to find out that now people know about him. What'll be interesting to see is for him, I don't feel like it will be as much of a deal because he does want to help people. He does want to get out there and do some good stuff, even if people find out about him. But for Clark, I feel like he's going to be more so worried about his son being out there now and being a known superhero. So it'll be interesting to see where that story goes, especially once Clark finds out that there's this information out there about Jordan. The stuff with Sam and Lana isn't as interesting. I do have sympathy for Lana because obviously she's going through a lot right now, trying to be mayor, but then also seeing Kyle be able to move on, but she's kind of stuck. I understand all of that, but I'm more so interested in how she's doing as mayor and what she's trying to do to help improve the town. That to me, alongside her trying to be a mom in the midst of this divorce, is a lot more interesting than her trying to move on and find somebody else after Kyle. And for Sam, him deciding to get back out there, but then he ends up kind of standing up his date to help Lois with something. Is this really that interesting? No, to be perfectly honest. So those scenes did lose me a little bit, but overall I think it's still fine. These characters, like I've said before, they're still likable, so I'm invested enough whenever the stories are not something stupid or soap opera-ish to me. But looking at how this episode ends, I mean, first of all, the use of the Cure, fantastic. It is funny because they're talking about the Cure as if they're this old band and I grew up with it because my dad was a fan of the Cure. But then sometimes I have to remember I am in my 30s now, so I am getting old. That final scene with the instrumental Love Song playing in the background, and you got where everybody is in this moment. And most of them were pretty straightforward, but two of them I found very interesting. First of all, most obviously, is Bizarro Superman waking up, because now that's probably where the story's going to go. But there was an interesting scene where we see Mateo confronting Mannheim about everything going on. Because obviously John's told Natalie she can't go see him anymore. He's taken her phone away, mostly to protect her, because who knows what Mannheim would do to her to try to get to John. But to see Mateo react as furiously as he did, it does make me wonder, since Bruno does care about Pia and about Mateo, how far does that care go? Does it go far enough to where he can put aside his grudges, put aside some of what he's trying to do to make sure his son is happy? Because I think so far he's been able to do all of this without his son knowing about it and without it really affecting his son. So now that we've gotten to a point where what he's doing is affecting Mateo to where he can't see Natalie anymore, this girl that he's fallen for, is that going to be enough for Mannheim to step back and go, you know what, if this is going to hurt my son, maybe this isn't the best thing? But I don't think that'll be the case, only because we've seen how long he's been at this, and also apparently find out Lex Luthor was put into prison for stuff that Mannheim and Pia might have done and framed him for. I don't know who plays Lex Luthor in this show, because hearing the voice, I'm guessing he's already been cast, and I'm guessing it's not John Cryer, which I'm okay with. I think he was fun on Supergirl. He fit the goofy tone of the show while still being pretty dastardly, but I don't think his Lex Luthor would work on this show, which is a lot more toned down, a lot more serious. So I am excited to see who they got to play Lex Luthor, but I don't know if that'll be this season or the final season. It makes more sense to be the final season, but we'll see where it goes next. I gotta say, it feels so good to be watching a show that's got me engaged and excited to see more. It's just a shame I have to go back to The Flash next, but with all that being said, on to episode 9. I'll see you there. And finally, episode 9, The Dress. Cinema. That's really all I can say about this episode. It's so damn good, and it makes me hurt inside, because I wish The Flash was this good still. Even at its best, I don't know if The Flash ever got this good. It was just enjoyable. It's like I'm watching a movie. Like how well it's put together. That final scene just culminating so perfectly. It's beautiful to watch. And so many of these topics too that they're discussing, very, very deep. Like stuff that you don't even really think about when it comes to a woman who has breast cancer. Some of the stuff she has to go through, some of the thoughts that she has, it's stuff that not everybody thinks about. Like I was talking about in that one episode, whenever Clark was talking to Pia and the other woman in the hospital, there are certain things that people know about and they discuss whenever they do talk about cancer that are kind of general knowledge. But this show is tackling some of the stuff. I really do wonder if somebody in the staff, in the writing room, or maybe whoever's in charge of the show, they know somebody who's going through cancer or went through cancer. And so they have this personal experience to draw from, because it feels so real. It feels like somebody who's really gone through it and knows just the struggle that not only the person with cancer goes through, but also everybody around them. So it's just really, really good. There's really not much else I can say about the main story in that sense. Some of the stuff on the outside, though, first of all, with John Henry, I think what's the most frustrating thing looking at this whole story is it's the little petty stuff that leads to the bigger stuff. First of all, Mannheim sends some men after John to threaten him, to get him to stand down. You're like, hey, end this so that way your daughter's not in any danger. But then, of course, John comes in to try to just force his hand, raiding Mannheim's space and trying to find his dirty secrets buried, which then causes Mannheim to send, I think it's Henry Miller, after John. And then John ends up killing him. So all of this stuff is just started from such a simple place of, well, I'm going to get at you. I'm going to press your buttons until you give me what I want. Oh, well, I'm going to come back at you. I'm going to press your buttons until you give me what I want. And it's just back and forth until it leads to the death of not necessarily an innocent man, but a man who's just caught in the middle of all of this. Basically a pawn on the board, and John is the one to do it. He's the one to kill him. So I don't really know where this story is going, but I just know it feels very avoidable, I guess is the best way to put it. It didn't need to get to this point, and yet it did. I feel like both John and Mannheim are equally responsible, in my opinion. But we do see Mannheim showing Mateo what he's got cooking to try to save his wife. So I don't know if this means Mateo now is going to understand where his dad's coming from, or if he's still going to see the bad that his dad is doing and not really get on board with all of this. But I do wonder if what Mannheim said at the end was true, that he actually did find a way to save Pia's life using Bizarro Superman. But the only other thing in this episode is obviously the kids, what they're going through. And it's fine. You see Mateo and Natalie finally get a chance to see each other because John sets it up. It's one of those stories that would mean a lot more if they weren't kids. And it's a very sweet story, and again, not all high school romances die out after they're out of high school. But I'm old enough to know that you change a lot when you're in your early 20s. So yes, this connection between them may be very strong right now, and they may really like each other a lot. But to say it's love, you don't really know what love is at 16. Some people think they did. Personally, I know I didn't. And I know most people who talk about it know, looking back, even some of the people that were together in high school and managed to stay together until they got married and into the later years, they would probably even look back and go, yeah, what we had in high school, that wasn't really love. There was a moment later on down the line, that was the moment that we grew up and we realized what love really is. So I just always feel like these stories with high schoolers talking about, oh, I love her, oh, just so sweet. I never really get that invested in it because I know it's not real. But the other part of it is Jonathan and Jordan finally make up after what happened at the end of last episode. And it's a nice moment, but I will say it's been happening quite a bit. It's probably a good thing the show only lasted 4 seasons because it does feel like this is a cliche they're relying on a lot, where two characters, they get into an argument, one of them is being selfish, one of them is being stubborn, and then eventually they find a way to bridge the gap, realize they were both wrong, and make up. And that's fine. I like the fact that it's both characters realizing it together, because on a lesser show, Arrow, there would be a character, Oliver, who would essentially just apologize to the other character, Felicity, even though they were both in the wrong, even though they were both guilty of what went wrong, but it was just the one character apologizing to the other and the other one being like, yeah, I knew I was right, and that was kind of the end of it. In this show, they do have the maturity to go, both sides were wrong. Both sides did have their screw-ups, and they both admit to it, and I really appreciate that, but it is starting to get to a point where we've done it multiple times throughout each season. So now that we're on season 3, I am kind of getting to a point where, do we have to keep doing this? Do we have to keep having the same story over and over and over again? One of the brothers does something that pisses the other one off, and then the other brother does something that pisses him off, and then they fight, and then they make up. They realize they're both wrong, apologize. First time they hugged it out that I can remember. So not necessarily bad, just a bit overdone. But all in all, I mean, these 3 episodes were really, really good. Again, the season has not been bad up to this point, but it hasn't gripped me like the first 2 did. Now it has. These 3 episodes really brought me back in, and I won't say I was crying at the end of this episode, but the eyes were watery. I was feeling it. It was right here, tugging at the heartstrings. So I'm really glad the show is bringing it this season. I'm excited to see where the rest of it goes, but that'll be it for now. Back to The Flash. So with all that being said, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on these 3 episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Superman and Lois reviews. Also check out the channel. We have a lot of other reviews on here, so check those out if you have time. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out.